You're listening to the Living Adventures podcast, a lifestyle podcast hosted by Ashley Mielke and thevictoriavance. Tune in for a new episode every Thursday to hear our honest conversations about topics like freedom, creativity, spirituality, luxury living, health and wellness, and above all else, building community.
We have real and unfiltered conversations inspired by our search to feel connected to people who give a shit about us, support our dreams, and understand our struggles. Our mission is to provide you with the tools, guidance, and motivation to navigate any moment in your life with the lens of your neurodivergent mind, with a community who gets you. Adventure on. Hello, and welcome to another episode of the Living Adventures podcast. It's your co-host here, Ashley Mielke, with
thevictoriavance.
And we are super excited because today we're talking about something a little, I don't think it's aggressive, but it might be a little offensive. It might be a little slap in the face. We're going to tell you 5 signs that you don't actually believe you're important. That sounds bad. It sounds a little bad.
It does sound terrible.
The cold hard truth that
but
you
it's
need
also,
to hear.
It's good to know so that you can work on yourself and get yourself into the place where you can give yourself the things that you are denying yourself.
That's so true. And there are some people who are like, ignorance is bliss. I don't want to know. But me personally, when I was doing these things and I realized it was signs that I didn't think I was important, I actually just wish someone would have been like, you don't think you're important, because then I could have fixed it way faster than just living my life mad and pissed about the world.
See, when I think of the things of ignorance is bliss, is I like to think of the world is going to shit, and so my life is going to shit. And so instead of paying attention to how everything is going to shit, so that you're not in the realm of shit 24/7. You are delusional to it, and so you don't think your life is going to shit, so you are happier.
Yeah, it's like, be ignorant sometimes about external factors, because all you can control is internal factors.
Yeah. And also that, we don't have as much control, and so things can be going to shit, and we can't do everything about it. And so what are the things that are in our control that we can deal with? This is something that's in your control that you can deal with. And that's why it's good stuff.
It's so true. We're going to give you some actionable tips and items to control the things that you think about yourself, so that way you can believe you're more important, but not just believe it, act it out in your everyday life. I love what you said about control too, because I'm pretty sure over the past 3 years, if we want to talk astrology, Saturn has been in my 8th house. Saturn is restrictions and maturity, and my 8th house is like money. And Saturn said, Ashley, you're going to release control around making money. And I was like, no, I'm not. I'm going to control how I make money. I'm going to make sales plans. I'm going to have a business, and I'm going to control every single piece. And every single time I get a dollar bill, it's in my power. I can go make money any day I want. And Saturn said, please sit your ass down, because you're incorrect. And if you do not release control, I will make your life a living hell. So much so that you will burn your business to the ground, and you will cry for months because you'll have no fucking idea what to do until you decide you're going to release control to the universe. And I did release control, but it was kicking and screaming. It is better on the other side when you don't have to control all of the things. But that was rough. It was a rough time.
Yeah, it is. I have had Saturn in my first house personally,
which I feel like is also
and now
not good.
Which is not great. First house is like house
it's your
of
identity,
self
bro.
and identity. And now, the next 20 years, I'm getting Pluto in my first
transformation,
house.
Death, rebirth.
Yeah, 20 years of it. 3 years of Saturn, 20 years of Pluto. Thanks.
Well, Pluto will go into my 8th house. So it's like, but it's good because Saturn taught us all these lessons, right? That's how I keep looking at it. I'm like, Saturn taught me how to release control, because the negative aspects of Pluto are going to be counteracted by the lessons you learned from Saturn. Because Pluto, at least for money, makes you want to have control of things. And that's the negative aspect of the planet. But because I learned how to release control, now I won't be obsessive about money, because I'm just going to trust that it's come fulfilled and financed. And now I'm just going to love the transformation it provides me with my income.
That's true. We'll see what happens with Pluto, but Saturn whipped my ass in self of identity, and I guess my entire identity that I've been ripping to shreds in a deep ass shredder for the past 3 years was my work life and having work as my identity. And so that's been ripped to shreds. And so I no longer have to work to be loved and to be human and get the things that I need. And that's a really great relief. I'm still learning it some, but hopefully that means Pluto will be nice to me.
Yeah,
thank you.
Pluto will be nice. Okay, side note, I mean, I was going to be like, and stick around and see where we're at in 20 years. Can you imagine doing the podcast for 20 years? Do people do that? Have podcasts existed for 20 years or more? I guess they haven't been around that long. Or do people just
how
stop?
long has Ryan Seacrest been on the air? Like doing a
like on the radio?
Because that's like the oldest guy on the radio that I can think of in like our not like he's our generation, but you know what I mean?
Let's see. When did he start? He's in 2004, so like not even 20 years.
We'll be like 20 years next year.
20 years next year on the air with Ryan Seacrest. That'll be his 20-year anniversary. That's insane. The longest running podcast. This is important, guys. We need to know what we're aspiring to.
I don't think it's going to be podcast. It's going to be like radio show.
900 episodes. No, there's got to be some with more. The American Life podcast started in 1995, maybe. That's what they say is the longest running. 1995. Okay, that's almost 30 years.
That's 20 years. Yeah,
20 years. Anyways, catch us in 20 years, maybe. I don't know. Maybe not.
Who knows? I'm not going to predict my life from 20 years from now. I'm barely
because we are not
predicting my
control.
life a month from now, but I did try and I have a travel vision idea for the rest of the year, and that's the biggest thing I'm getting, and I'm not a planner, and so that was really hard to force myself to do.
Yeah, that's wild. My mom keeps asking me. Yeah, we're just like in a very transitionary period of our life, and my mom keeps asking me like, oh, are you going to come to Ohio? Do you want to go on vacation in the summer? Do you want to go to Aruba? Do you want to go to the Outer Banks? And I was like, I wish I could have answers for you. And the answer is yes. I just have no idea what my schedule is going to look like. Not because it's my schedule, because obviously I can do whatever I want, but I'm like, is Adrian going to have an internship? Is it going to be working? Is it going to do school in the summer? And I'm like, I don't got answers for you. So I don't know. You plan it. I'll show up if I can.
Yeah, it's also, we will be going to Ohio this summer, and we will be getting our boat day that we craved so much last summer.
My mom's buying a boat.
Didn't really get. So I'm going to Ohio for the first time ever in my life for a boat.
Worth.
Thank you.
So now we're going to dive into the 5 signs that you don't believe you're important. Again, that sounds really mean, but maybe that's because I'm a projector who has to wait for the invitations, and I'm assuming that you're inviting this conversation today.
If you're not, take a break and listen when you're ready.
Get the F out. We're going to be hitting you.
There's so many times where there's things that I know are great for me to listen to, everybody, but in that moment, I'm not able to receive it, and it's okay to shut it off and listen to it when you're ready.
Yeah.
You'll get a lot more out of it, and you'll hate yourself a lot less.
It's so true, and but this will be really relatable. So if anything, you won't feel alone, because all the things that we're not going to just shit on you and tell you why you don't think you're important. Like, we've been there. This is a collective experience that many people go through because we're not raised in this world to believe that we're worthy of the things that we desire, and so we just shame ourselves until we get this cute little belief that we don't think we're important. And it's weird because it doesn't always start off as this big idea that you're not important. And that's why we wanted to bring this up, because there's so many ways that we act throughout our lives and we make it our normal. And we can't even compute that that's a sign that we don't believe we're worthy of it or important of the things that we want.
And it's like what we talked about, which is the why behind the why behind the why. And you have to ask yourself a few times is we're going to break down basically what's something that a lot of people go through. And basically the why behind the whys of like what's actually happening. And we have a few different ways how it shows up as in actions versus reactions and in search situations. And so
let's get into it. So the first one is a personal struggle of mine. And this might be a sign that you don't think you're important. And that is, you believe that you have to work hard to get what you want. And I have a feeling that 99% of the people listening to this podcast right now have had this or do currently believe that you have to work hard to get what you want. And when someone even suggested to me that this could be a false belief, my little brain was like a computer that could not register. It was like beep, 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 does not make sense, cannot intake, what? Because, I mean, our whole lives we're told that you need to work hard to get what you want. The harder you work, the more results you'll get. The harder you work, the better your life will be. The more you strive, the better it'll be. And I just was like, yeah, that makes sense. Because if I work hard, then I get things. And that's kind of like what's proven to us throughout our lives, especially through the school system, right? You work hard, you study, you get a good grade. You work hard, you turn in your homework, you get praised. All of those things. You work really hard and all of that stuff. But is that really true? And when I started to question that, my brain fried. It could not understand.
Were you ever like insulted in school when you were younger for working too hard on a project, but not by like a teacher, by like students?
Yep, totally.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah.
And then we all work too hard on the wrong things.
And it's like, so it's weird because think of like kids, right? We're not as conditioned as adults. So we're like kind of kids are just entering the world. We have no views on how things have to be. We're just living and vibing. And so you have these adults, these teachers who are like, work really hard and you'll get really far. And then you have kids who are like, why are you doing that? Like, why are you working so hard? And it can seem like they're shaming you. But I almost wonder if kids say that because they don't understand. They're like, wait, we don't have to do that. We're fresh in this world. We're not conditioned. Do you know you don't have to do that until we get to the place where we believe that we have to do that?
Well, I'm kind of thinking in the sense of like fifth graders. So by then they're starting to get pretty conditioned and they're being butt heads. So in that sense, yes. But I mean, I love watching these kids learning how to snowboard because next year I really want to learn how to snowboard. And I watched one yesterday and somebody put a mic of their 3-year-old snowboarding without their parent and everything, or like the parents filming them, right? And It's like, oh, I think I'm going to fall. This is a big turn. Oh, I fell. It's okay. It was just a fall. And it's like, yeah, it's just a fall. Like, we fall all the time in life, right? Like, whether you fail a test, you fail, you didn't get a client, you fail that you missed a bill or whatever. It's like, it's a fall. We can get back right up. Like, it's okay. It might take us some longer sometimes because it was a bigger fall, but it's a fall. It's okay. We'll always get back up. And having that in like the sense of the 4 pebbles meditation, which I've talked about before, and mindfulness, which is the first pebble is freshness. That's why a lot of places like to have kids come and everything, because it brings a freshness to the atmosphere at a Dharma place, or I don't know, like the halls that they have and everything, because kids, yes, maybe they're crying or whatever, but the way they view life is they're not as impacted by everything yet. And so there's so much freshness. And so like thinking of that, like a fall is a fall, guys. That's it. Don't have to make it your entire identity.
Yeah. But we make working hard our entire identity because, I mean, even in school, I was told that hard work beats talent. And then like the rest of the quote that no one ever told you is when talent doesn't work hard. But actually, you don't, why? We don't have to work hard. You don't have to work hard. But the reason why that belief shows that you don't believe you're important is because for me, I was like, if I don't work hard, how will I prove that I'm worthy of these things that I want? How will I show people that I deserve them? You know, because like you said, in school, kids are like, why are you working so hard? But then imagine the kid who didn't work hard. I mean, I think of Adrian. He literally never studies for anything. Adrian is the man who believes you do not have to work hard, but you will always get what you want. And he is the lesson in that. He goes to class, right? Adrian goes to law school. He's in class. He works full time. So sometimes he doesn't read the text. And in law school, you have to read because they call on you and they randomly call on you to answer questions. But for Adrian, he doesn't do that. And then someone will call on him and he'll still be able to figure out the answer to the question without having read the text. And the kids behind him, his friends, are like, are you kidding me? You don't even study. We study so hard. We've been reading this text all week long and you just didn't even study and you got the right answer. That's so annoying. And people are annoyed because it's so hard to fathom that you could be safe and you could be okay without working hard. And I think that's something I had to work on. Like we just talked about Saturn telling me to release control. The other thing about working hard is you're trying to control things, because if you don't control things, you don't think you're good enough to get what you want or to prove yourself. So it's weird because on the flip side, you have the kids who are like, why are you working so hard? Don't do that. And it's kind of almost because they're like, well, I don't want to work that hard, so you have to stop working that hard. You're making me look bad. But on the flip side, if you stop working hard, you have people who are like, I'm working hard. Why are you not working hard and getting the same result? And that used to be me. I used to get so mad when I saw people in business saying, go with the flow. You don't need a plan. You can do whatever you want. Follow your passion, follow your intuition. I was like, shut the fuck up. You don't know what you're talking about. How do you get to live your life that way? And it was all because I was so jealous that I couldn't live my life that way because I didn't believe it was possible.
I was so jealous in school so much that other people had it come easy to them. But then people also were jealous of me because whenever I came to the studio, I was like, I'm here at the studio for 4 hours and I'm booking this out. And it's because, one, I didn't have time and room in my schedule because I was working full-time and going to school full-time. But it's also because I was thinking about all the stuff while I was working and like on bar and everything. And that by the time I got to school, I'm just executing on ideas. And so I'm working maybe even harder, one, because I'm just like literally so sleep deprived and just working 24/7, but it can look different. And so that's also something of kind of like last week, how we talked about buzzwords is, what does work hard even mean and look like? Because we think it needs to be thinking in Adrian's scenario of reading all of this text, studying long hours why is that the only way to work hard? Maybe it's just not the most efficient way. Maybe it is efficient for one person and that's how they get the information. But another person is they need to read and interact with the information and that's how they get the information better. And maybe Adrian's way is just completely different. And so it's my grandfather, who is a multi-millionaire and owned many businesses, but does not look like it. He always said, work smart, not hard. You don't know how others work. And so stop looking to that. Do what you need to do. What is the smartest path forward for you?
I love that. Work smart, not hard. And work smart gets to be defined by you. This is something I've been thinking about a lot this week. I was going to make a TikTok on this today, actually, is about productivity and what that means. And, Victoria and I have done a lot of work over the past 6 months trying to figure out what is our dream schedule, how much time do we want to spend working, how much do we not? And something I really struggle with is, in human design, I'm a projector, and they say projectors are only supposed to work like 3 hours a day. And that felt really confusing for me because sometimes I'm like, yeah, that makes sense. I want to take 3 hours a day and then nap. But then I'm like, what do I do with the rest of my time? But then there's some days where I want to work a lot and I want to spend my whole day creating and writing and making things and sitting on my desk and editing clips for the podcast. And it wasn't until I heard this idea of output versus input that I was like, oh, this makes sense. So 3 hours of output, 3 hours of work for me where I'm like doing things that maybe deplete my energy, that's work, versus inputting and nurturing myself is things that like could be not work. And so that was hard for me because our jobs can be very nurturing in the sense of, I just wrote a post about healing my inner child. Writing that was very fulfilling to me. It brought me a lot of energy. Talking to Victoria on the podcast brings me a lot of energy when we get off of these calls. But I do have tasks that deplete my energy. And so I think we have to stop thinking of this like working hard, but like what depletes your energy, that's work. What gives you energy, that's play, that's fun, that's non-work. And maybe, just maybe, there's a way in this world where if you do more inputting and more nurturing of yourself, then the time that you are spent working will be that smart time. It'll take less time. You'll get more done because you'll go into it more energized and fulfilled and excited.
I like the way you put that because something that's very common and that's in the ADHD space is we'll procrastinate on things for a very long time, right? Like a lot of little things of like making all of these phone calls. Maybe it's also paying a bill. Maybe it's just doing all these mundane little things. And we save it all for this one day and we book it all out. And then we are exhausted beyond belief. And it's this all or nothing approach is we either have to get it all done or not. But also is we save it all for this one day and then we're drained for the next month that we can't do anything else because we just did a month's worth of work that we've been holding off for a month in one day. And so when we think of kind of how you're talking is, when I was thinking of making my schedule and like what is my dream life work schedule and everything, is the first 3 hours of the day are actionable steps. I am outputting work. That's the type of stuff that we're doing. The later in the stuff day might be work. Like it might be things to do with my business, but it's things that are fueling it. It's thinking of ideas. It's maybe resting. It's maybe doing a paint by number. And in the paint by number, I'm thinking in the back of my mind, like an idea, or maybe I'm watching a Dharma talk while I'm getting ready, or like whatever. And that's giving me ideas to then share and be vulnerable about that help other people. And so it's knowing that when we think of that 9-to-5 life work is, you know, there are things that they have to do every day, right? And Adrian's another great example of this is he has to answer emails within 15 minutes of them coming in. That to me sounds like absolute hell, because that is so much outputting hours. And so where I am like between the hours of 9 and 12, maybe even 9 and 11, I am just outputting the things that I have to do. The other time is fueling. It's able to give me that space where I don't have to work 24/7, but also not constantly drain myself doing that for an entire day.
Yeah, I love that. And I feel like we've done a lot of work to get to that place. And I've done a lot of work to prove to myself that you don't have to work hard to get the things that you want. And that is showing up and deciding that you are worthy of what you want no matter how much you work. But on the flip side, because we've done that work, before I kind of realized this concept, I would feel so guilty when I was working at 8 o'clock at night. And by working, I mean, maybe I had a content idea come and I was writing it in my notes app, or maybe I was creating something on Canva. And I would be like, oh my gosh, Ashley, like we've been working so hard to show that we're worthy and like to prove to yourself that you don't have to work hard while you're working right now. And it really wasn't until I was like, no, like this nurtures me. I am a creative person and I gain energy when I can be creative. And so I've been working really hard to not feel guilty about that. And it's weird because like first you have to be like, okay, this idea that you have to work hard to get what you want is not true. And then you dismantle that. But it's not black and white of like, okay, well now I'm not going to work hard at all, or now I'm going to go in. It's really a flow. And that is the most hard thing to understand. And it requires you to release a lot of control, because there are some days where sending emails might give me energy, and that's fine. But I think if you can look at working hard versus not as what is giving me energy, what is depleting my energy, that's where you should start to figure out your balance in doing things. Just how you said, you know, you feel nurtured when you are creating content in the evening, when you're napping, like those are giving you energy. We want to do more of those things. And I truly believe now that if I do more of what nurtures me, then the work will be easier and the good things will come no matter what I do. But if you don't do that, it's just a sign that you don't think you're important enough, because you have to work hard to prove yourself. And that was a really hard concept for me to overcome. And there's just so many layers to it.
There's a lot of layers, because it's like, one is having to constantly prove ourselves and up level ourselves and always be the best, right? And thinking of in college or whatever is I always have to have the best project every single week, keep topping myself. And it's like, that's not sustainable, right? And then it's also like, what are we defining as work? And it took us so long to do that, because it's like, we're supposed to work 3 hours, but then like, what is work? And then it's like, if I do all of this in 3 hours, what do I do the rest of the day? Was a big thought we had. And It goes back to like something I teach my clients, where it's like an energy giving week. And so it's, what are activities that give you energy versus take your energy, and how to add more things that give you energy, because there's things that deplete your energy that you can't get rid of, right? Sometimes you're just always going to have to pay the bill or make the phone call, go to the doctor's office, right? But what is something that we could do to make that situation better? Yesterday, I did not want to walk out at all, but I had to. And I understand that, right? But it's also, I have my needs too. I was so hungry. There wasn't any food. I had to cook it to eat it. And I wanted to take him out before it got dark out. I was so tired. I was so hungry. And then I ended up getting McDonald's ice cream, because I knew, like, when I was in the car, my stomach started screaming at me. And then I got stuck behind a student driver who was going 25 in a 40.
Oh, God.
I was screaming in my car. And I was like, Victoria, you're not going to last at the park with Bo if we don't take care of ourselves right now. And
so true.
I was able to take care of myself and give myself what I needed. And we were able to take care of ourselves and give ourselves what that needed at first, because we're like, I have to work for me to get all of that stuff. And we didn't believe that we couldn't export 24 hours a day and things would still come to us. We thought we had to show ourselves constantly to get things, but that wasn't true.
Yeah, it's literally like the if-then context. If I work hard, then my needs will be met. But that is not true. And that's the belief you have to dismantle to truly believe you're worthy of what you want. Because if you fulfill your needs, then you will be able to work. But also, if you fulfill your needs, then you'll get everything taken care of and like it'll be fine. That's a bad way of putting it, but you have to almost reverse this whole thing on your head. I love that you got ice cream because that sounds amazing. I was like, oh, a little treat. Let's go.
The hot fudge, here's the thing. I got the hot fudge sundae and they put very minimal hot fudge on that. And so I was like a little bit sad, but guess what? That thing got me through it. I stayed at the park for half an hour and both still had energy, but I at least did a half an hour at the park.
Well, and it's weird too to figure out the balance of what gives you energy and what doesn't. I was even thinking about how we went snow tubing. While we were snow tubing, I was alive. I was energized. I felt like I was sunbathing as we were going up the little lift to get to the top of the snow tube thing. But when I got home, energy gone, depleted, exhausted. And it's weird because it's like, so it gave me energy in the moment, but then I felt depleted after. So I needed to rest to gain that energy again. But it's almost like that snow tubing has long-term effects. Same thing with hiking. It depletes my energy at the end, but it almost like it fulfills my battery for the rest of the week. It's like I have two batteries, right? I have the day of battery and I got the week battery that gets fulfilled by hiking.
Well, no, think of it in the 7 types of rest, right? And so that is giving you like a lot of physical exertion compared to like the rest of the week. Like right now, physically, I'm not doing that much. Like I'm good. And so the nap difference of like a nap that I might take after the podcast is different than a nap that I might take after physical activity. And so we are recharging in that mental place, but we're physically depleting ourselves, and that's okay. And so we're gonna have to physically rest. Like those are the deepest naps after hikes and everything. It's so amazing. I knocked out so hard. I woke up feeling like a new person. But then the nap I took yesterday, it was just a lighthearted nap, right? It was just my mind taking a rest, and so that I could do more and I could refresh it.
I love that. You really got to go listen to the 7 types of rest episode if you haven't, because you're right. You know, even thinking of us going snow tubing, that's not actual rest, but it is social rest, or not social rest. It's mental rest. It's also spiritual rest in the sense that we're part of a community. We're doing something bigger together. It feels fun. And so it's recharging that part of our battery, the social battery, in the sense of like we feel connected.
Our creative self, right? Because we were filming, we were doing fun things. We're looking at the mountains. We're seeing all of this stuff. It's great. But it does physically deplete us, and that's okay.
Yeah. So maybe the question for if you're someone who does think that you have to work hard to get what you want isn't how do I work less? It's actually how do you rest more? What kind of rest do you need to be able to execute on those energy depleting tasks that you know you have to do? But if I would say, like, what are the steps to doing this so you feel worthy and important? Because that's the whole point here. If you think you have to work hard to get what you want, and you're at the place where I was, where you literally don't believe that could be untrue, start dismantling that. Why do you have to prove yourself? Why do you have to work hard? Ask that why loop that, Victoria mentioned in the beginning over and over and over again until you get to where it stemmed from. Did you have to prove yourself as a kid to get your needs met? Did you have to be perfect? Is it an ADHD thing playing that you had to mask your ADHD by being perfect so no one would get mad at you about your ADHD? That's a lot of stuff that came up for me. And then once you kind of figure out where that came from and start to heal that part of your mindset, you can start to look at, okay, well, now I know I don't have to work hard to get what I want or to have my needs met. So what do I want work to look like? What does work mean? What does rest mean? What does my schedule look like? And then from there, you can get to the place where you're not just saying, because we know affirmations are bullshit, that I'm worthy of getting what I want no matter how much I work. Sure, that's great. But now we need to take action and show that to yourself that you are worthy. You are worthy of the nap. You are worthy of the 3-hour workday. You are worthy of doing the energy fulfilling things in your life.
Oh my God. It was so funny because this morning I did yoga, which I already told you about. But at the end of the video, it was like, I want you to think of how you've taken this time for yourself for the day and resonated this piece, how you want to take this piece with you throughout the day, and take in an affirmation that you gave yourself this piece to step forward in, and to what are the next steps that you need to do to continue this piece and everything, instead of thinking of affirmations of like, oh, if I'm this, then I need to think this so that I can feel better, is like,
Yeah.
I have done this to myself. How can I keep giving myself this?
Yeah.
Which is like
Like,
the
what
better way to think of
affirms-
affirmations. Yeah.
Also, let's talk about this. What is an affirmation? An affirming belief. An affirmation, affirmation. So it's not like us saying like, I don't feel confident, I'm confident. Like, no, you are affirming a belief that you have, affirming an action that you're taking. So I love that. You did yoga. How are you going to affirm the peace that you created in the yoga? Okay, I am resting and I am taking care of myself. And I know that if I take care of myself, my needs will be met. How can I affirm that belief? That way better way to look at affirmations. I don't know how we always end up on affirmations, but
it just reminded me of you this morning, and I was just like, oh, I got to tell you that. And I just remembered.
No,
Next
I love
one.
that. All right, number 2, the second sign that you might not believe you're important or worthy of the things that you want is not spending money when you have it. And you might notice a theme. This is all coming back to your needs being met. You have to work hard to prove that your needs deserve to be met. You have to, well, I don't know, we'll get into what the beliefs are, but you don't spend money to have your needs met and buy the things that you want when you have it. And that's a sign that you don't think you're important enough to spend that money. Or you don't believe that you're going to get more money because you're not important enough to have money and have your needs met. But Victoria had a really cool post about this, so tell us about that.
So I was talking about my money beliefs because I have needed new toothbrush heads for like 3 months now. And I don't have my phone when I'm normally brushing my teeth. And so like it was partially an ADHD thing of just object permanence. I left the room and I just forgot I needed to buy new toothbrush heads because it's like every time I brush my teeth, I remember, but then I leave the bathroom, thoughts gone. And so that happened for quite a while, but it also was showing up in many other areas where it's funny because the headphones that I'm wearing, I have been complaining to Ashley literally since the start of this podcast about my headphones. My AirPods are breaking. I've just needed new ones. I tried to buy myself AirPods and then the whole Mexico fiasco happened and I'm still trying to get my money back from them. And I kept saying like, oh, once I get the money back from USPS, then I will buy them and everything because I don't have the money for it right now. I do have the money for it right now. And these are the ones, I wanted 2 pairs. I still want the AirPods, the new ones. But I have been wanting these for literally since 2018. And I didn't buy them myself. I've had the money, but I felt like I wasn't able to buy them. They were too expensive. They're like $400. And I was like, I shouldn't spend $400 on headphones. Like, that's not that important. Like, there's other things that I should be spending it on. I should save it. What if my car breaks down? What if something happens? What if I get like a random bill? Like, you never know when money's coming next. And so it was scarcity, but it also was, I wasn't valuing myself highly enough of, I use these headphones every fucking day. Isn't that mean it's important to me? But because maybe it's not important to others, or when I was younger, like, I would say I need new headphones. My mom's like, they're fine. Like, headphones aren't that important or everything, but they are to me. And I wasn't valuing the things that are important to me. And I kept putting them off and putting them off. And that was showing me that it's okay to put myself off. And so I was like, I have to fucking end this cycle. Where do I start? And it's also, I am a paralysis buyer. So that's another thing that I struggle with. And so I was like, look, I know I want these headphones through and through my body. I've been looking at them for so long. They even just came out with a new pair. Let me go get them. And I have them. And do I have the AirPods for it yet? No, but I also got the toothbrush. Like, why am I holding off on these toothbrush heads? Like, oh, next month I'll get it. They're $5, guys. Why am I waiting? I have $5.
Yeah.
Like the headphones, yes, that's a more expensive version, but it's $5 and I feel so much better brushing my teeth with these new toothbrush heads.
Yeah. And the thing that I think is interesting about what you're showing is needs versus wants. Like, yes, you're showing yourself you're not important to have your needs met because you're not buying the toothbrush. But let's say you believe you're important enough to have your needs met and you buy your groceries on time and you always have toilet paper stocked and whatever. With the headphones, that's you saying, I am important of what I need, but not what I want. So yes, my needs deserve to be fulfilled and I should be able to eat and I should have a roof over my head and warm clothes. But maybe not what I want. I really want a new candle. I really want a new blanket. I really want new headphones, but I'm not going to buy them because what you're saying to yourself is I'm not worthy of what I want. And we don't look at it that way when we're procrastinating on these things, but that's truly what you're saying to yourself. And it makes me think of the quote that, when you make a promise to yourself and you break it, all you do is hurt the trust that you have in yourself. It's the same thing when your mind is like, oh, I really want new headphones. And you're like, well, you can't have them. That you can't have them or I can't get that right now is you basically slapping your inner self and saying, you're not worthy. You're not worthy. You suck and you do not deserve headphones. So go cry in a corner and all you can do is buy some groceries. That's all you're good enough for. And that really sucks.
You want to know what's so fucking crazy is I almost bought them and then my ex bought them right after we broke up. And that made me vigorously angry because I wasn't taking care of myself and I wasn't like giving myself the things that I wanted and needed. And it is a slight need, but it's also a want. And it's like, oh, I could get the most basic version, but that's not what I want. And I can't get myself the version that I need and want. And I'm devaluing myself from that.
Yeah. Well, let's take it a step further. Another sign that you don't think you're important is when you are doing the shopping for the things that you want, you settle. You settle for the thing that's cheaper. You settle for the thing that's less expensive instead of buying the thing that you actually freaking want. You know, why do we do that to ourselves? Because somewhere deep down, we don't think we're worthy of what we want. So we're going to save money because somebody told us it was good to save money, or we're going to skimp out on this thing. And, you know, it's crazy to me too, because if I think about you and I, we're not very materialistic people. We're not like out here buying things every single week. And so if you're like that too, or maybe you don't buy things a lot, why are we holding off on buying things the one time we want something, you know? Like the one time that you decide you want something, we're not gonna buy it. And this is something I've been thinking about lately. I want to redo my wardrobe for spring and summer, and I have a $200 gift card, and it's just sitting there. And there is a part of me that's like, well, maybe we'll buy groceries with it. Maybe we'll do that. And it's like, no, that was a Christmas gift. That should be used for fun, exciting things. I should go buy $200 worth of spring and summer clothes because that's what I want. So why would I not go do that unless somewhere deep down I'm thinking, oh, well, I'm really only going to be important enough if this is for groceries because that's the right thing to do. That's the responsible thing to do. But underneath the right and responsible is you just saying, I'm only worthy of my needs, not the things that I want in my life.
Because for me, I always did the responsible things. It's like, okay, yeah, I have all the cleaning supplies that I need. I have all the basic necessities that I need, but I don't ever buy the next part where it's like the things that I want. And I'm always like, oh, we'll just save it. It's fine. Whatever. It's not really that important because I was like, I don't matter. And it's like, why do I always have to be the responsible decision? Why do I always have to make it? And it's like this, it's like a secondhand, it is a slight victim mentality. I used to have a lot of victim mentality, and I've gotten rid of it. And I think part of that is still a victim mentality to me of like, oh, something's going to be more important. I'm just not somebody who gets to have the fun stuff. I'm not somebody who gets to have my wants. Other people do, but that's just not something I get in my life.
Yeah. And even think about like if you're someone who has that I'm the responsible one narrative, there's going to be a point where you're going to get really bitter and resentful about being the responsible one. If I lived my whole life being the responsible one, I will say like in my relationship with Adrian, I'm very much the one to take control. Like I'm going to buy the groceries. I'm going to probably plan dinners and lunches. And if I did that our entire relationship, I would be so bitter about how I always have to be responsible and I always have to be taking care of people. And to counteract that, there are times where I'm like, hey, you know, I say what I want. And like, this doesn't even have to be in purchasing things. This can be in relationships. I cooked dinner for like a couple weeks every single night, made sure we had food. Adrian went on spring break for law school. Usually he doesn't get home till 10. So like, what am I going to be like, cook me dinner at 10? No, thank you. But I was like, hey, like you're on spring break. Like, what if you cooked dinner this week? Could you do that? And he did. He cooked dinner every single week. And I didn't have to be the responsible one. I didn't even have to buy the groceries. He came with the groceries. He came with the idea for the meals. And so it's not just in this place where you're buying things, it's also in your relationships, with your friendships. Like, where are you showing up to be responsible because that's how you have to do instead of saying what you want, asking for what you need, and all of those things. And the other thing is it's not just relationships. I also think about how does this bleed into how we run our businesses. I need to be the responsible one. I'm not the one who can just, never plan and get what I want. I'm not the one who could just no dream clients are going to sign up for my program. I'm not the one that gets brand deals out of nowhere. These are the stories that we carry, and all they're doing is saying that you're not important enough to be like those people. But if you're recognizing those people, there's something deep down in you that says, I could be like them. but I'm pissed because I'm not acting like them.
Or it's you want to be like them, but you don't give yourself the space to do that or the permission to do that because your beliefs push against that. And since our beliefs do become our identity, is like it's questioning your identity, which takes a lot of time to work through, and it's hard. But it's something we need to do if we want to be able to feel that and get that and have that self-worth be evident.
Yeah. I love that what you said about it becomes your identity. Because even think about, I'm the responsible one. That's your identity. I'm responsible, so I'm only going to spend my money on the responsible things. Or
Think
even
of like
I'm
the oldest child is the responsible one and everything is they're so fucking bitter about it all the time of like the online idea because they always have to be responsible. That's their entire identity.
Even I'm a hard worker, right? You have to work hard to get what you want. I'm a hard worker. That's my identity. And you're right, because that was my identity, whenever I heard you don't have to work hard to get what you want, I'm like, that can't be true because my whole identity is I'm a hard worker. Or even when we tell people this on this podcast and they hear, no, you can go buy your wants and all the things you want right now, they're going to be like, oh, no, I'm the responsible one. That goes against everything that I am. And you can dismantle those beliefs. But like we've said in many other podcasts, it takes 6 months of work to change your identity and like stop being that person. And when you do, not only do you show yourself that you're important and you're worthy of the things that you want, but life feels like a whole lot easier than these toxic identities that we've created for ourselves, like hard worker and responsible and some of the other ones that we're going to talk about.
Yeah.
Dang. Okay, number 3. Okay, this one kind of goes in with the hard work thing because number 3, a sign that you don't believe that you are important is that you are constantly doing more and more and putting out more to prove yourself to people. So some of the ways this might look like is if you're selling services or you're doing a brand deal, you're going to add another element. You're going to give them more access, more time, more products, more content, more, so you can prove that you're going to do the best and they should hire you. Or even I think of myself, like this past weekend, I had someone DM me about LAC and I was like, oh my gosh, she's already asking what the price is and thinking about applying. And I haven't even told her anything about the program. Maybe I need to tell her all the reasons the program is good and convince her that it's worth the price. And that's just a sign that I don't feel important enough to just know that people are going to want the thing that I had, even without me explaining it. And that happens a lot for people.
And like when that came through, as I asked Ashley, I was like, okay, when these situations normally happen, how do you reply to them? And she was like, oh, I justify and tell them everything that they're going to get in it. And I'm like, okay, do you believe that you are worthy of this and that like this program has everything that they need? It's like they have access to that online. And if they want more information, like get on a call with us and everything. And we can tell them more, but you do not need to justify the price. Just tell them as it is, like, and where we can give more information as they ask. But it's not our responsibility to make them realize everything. If they're going to want it, they're going to want it from you because we can sell 2 identical programs together, but I can believe that I am wholeheartedly worth it for $1,000 where you're going to send it and you're going to add 3 extra things, sell it for $1,000 and keep talking about it, why it's that price and justify that because what you're doing is you're justifying it to yourself. And you're just projecting your issues onto them.
Right.
Because when we remember that, like, we are always just projecting our own beliefs, what are you projecting when you're saying that?
Yeah. And it was so interesting because, you know, this is our first time selling in a long time and we don't feel like we need to prove or justify things. But when I got the DM, that was the first time I've gotten a DM regarding a sale or an offer or a service in like 6 months in a way that it was like asking questions and not just saying I'm signing up for this thing that you have. And I was like, Victoria, I don't even remember. Not that I don't remember, but I'm like, I don't know how I want to do DMs now because the way I used to do it was in that mindset of I have to prove myself and I have to justify. I had a whole offer called the DM Sales Bank, and it was all about, you know, guiding someone through their decision-making process and showing them, okay, well, this is, let me figure out what your needs are so I can show you why you need this offer. Let me show you why you're a good fit. Let me show you what the benefits are and how it's going to apply to your life. And it's like, in this new version where I do know that I'm worthy, why do I need to do that? Can't I just do that on a fucking sales call? Can't they just apply? And then when they apply, if I think they're good enough to, like a good enough fit to talk to, I'll tell them the benefits to them specifically on a call. Like, why am I wasting my energy doing those things? So it was so weird because one, this is a belief that I've worked on, but two, I had never done an action on it where I was like living out this belief in regards to this offer. So it's so weird to see that the different ways that we try to prove ourselves and justify ourselves and explain ourselves, even so that when we shift our identity, now we have to like, okay, wait, how do I actually want to interact in the world? And how does my new identity show up if I'm not the person that justifies themselves anymore?
And this was a great expander for the second thought, right? Is we have this trigger, right? Is you were triggered in your own beliefs and everything and how you would normally do it, but you knew from the start you didn't want to reply like that. You didn't know how yet. And so you said, okay, we're not doing it right now. Okay, like this is great. I'm so excited this all happened and everything. Okay, take a step back. Okay, here's how I normally reply. I replied in that way because those were my old beliefs. If I don't believe that anymore, what is the new path I need to take forward? And so having that second thought where we can take time and not react and instead start reacting with our new identities, that's where we start to make the shift into your new self. And that's where you start to see the identity shift on a like daily level, is when you are making those different reactions, because it's not all about how we act, but how we react.
Hello, this is Ashley and Victoria interrupting today's episode to tell you that the Living Adventures Collective is now open for enrollment.
If you have been listening to this episode so far and been connecting with it and wanting to shift your identity and come into your self-worth on a new level, then I would consider applying to LAC, because that is what we are going to be doing.
Yes, we're going to be spending 6 months working together deeply on all of those beliefs that are driving your life, honing in on your intuitive language, and learning how to build your dream life, business, and schedule so you can operate in your full worthiness for now until the end of time. So if that sounds like something you want to do, check it out in the description below. If you take our advice, I love what you're saying, because something I've thought about a lot this week is that our lives are not perfect. Victoria and I are not perfect people. Our stream of consciousness is not evolved and so elevated that we never think a negative thing and we never think we have to work hard. Like, no, like sometimes something triggers us that we used to react a certain way, like you said, but now we have an opportunity with those second thoughts to pause. And I love that, because that means we don't have to be perfect. I can be a human and I can get nervous about replying to a DM, but I can think about who I am now and what that means and how my actions can align with who I am now instead of just reacting the way I used to certain situations.
Another example of this is yesterday. I was trying to do so many things at once during like my lunch break, because when we think about a 9-to-5 life, is I always had to get everything done in like a 30-minute or hour-long period. I had to maximize that. That's my free time, afternoon in the day. Like, I have to get as much done. I have to eat. I have to do all this. But then when I own my own business, it's like I make my own schedule. But we kind of forget that and adopt that schedule in really fast. And so it's like I would work through lunch because I can. Like, nobody's watching. I own my own business and everything. I work from home alone. Like, there's nobody here to see and everything. And when you take that away and be like, what are you doing? Why are we rushing through things? Like, I don't have to get back. If I don't have a meeting, then I don't technically have to get back. And so why am I trying to rush through lunch and everything and walk Bo? I was trying to like walk Bo fastly and take out the trash and do so many things. And Bo stopped and was like, I'm not fucking moving. I'm sitting my ass right here. And I was like, come on, Bo, we have to go. And then I was like, whoa. Why do we have to go? You don't have anything else on your calendar for 2 hours, Victoria.
Yeah.
What the fuck are you doing? And so I sat my ass down with Bo, literally, and I said, why do I have to do that? Why am I feeling like I have to rush again? It's because that's how I used to feel. Okay, my second thought's coming in is I'm changing how I'm reacting. I'm going to sit here with Bo. We sat there for 20 minutes outside.
I love that.
Just chilling, just looking around in the fresh air. It was cold, but I had my big jacket on, so I was able to survive. And we just did that. And then I came in and I had a relaxing lunch, and then I took a 20-minute nap. And then I was like, I'm ready to get back to work now. It's not that I have to rush to get back to work. I will return when I'm ready. And it wasn't until I had that second thought is I was able to remember and put that stuff into place to act on my new identity.
I love that, because it really just shows both of these examples that we're not perfect. Like, you can change your beliefs and you can change your identity, but that doesn't mean old reactions and old triggers and old default ways and habits aren't going to show up. But it's so cool because you literally were like, oh wait, pause. That's not me. That's not my life anymore. I'm going to slow down because that's what I want to do. And I think that's cool. And if we think about this in the sense of like, you don't have to justify yourself. You don't have to do more. You don't have to prove yourself. You can start thinking of the ways in your life, like this is the question I want everyone to answer listening. Where am I trying to prove myself? Where am I trying to justify myself? This could be in your business. This could be in contracts. This could be in negotiations with a brand. This could be in your relationships. Are you trying to justify your needs being met to a partner? Are you trying to explain? Imagine if I told Adrian, oh, I really want you to make dinner this week because, I cooked and it was really hard. It was really overwhelming and I'm really lonely and yada, yada, yada. Like, no, I don't need to do that. I don't need to justify myself. I'm like, hey, you're off spring break. Will you cook dinner this week? Point blank, done. Ask for your needs to be met. Don't have to justify yourself.
And I was literally there when she did that, and she literally said verbatim, hey, school next week, so you cook dinner? And he goes, all right.
Yeah, and it didn't have to be a whole thing. I didn't have to justify myself. And obviously you have to have a partner who is willing to engage in that kind of healthy dialogue and conversation. But there's no reason why you need to do that to get what you want or to get your needs met.
It's also not really good to guilt other people into having your needs met. You know what I mean?
Dude.
That's a bad projection.
Personal experience,
to put
ready?
on others.
When I ask Adrian so we have this deal, Adrian and I do the laundry, he does the dishes. I think that works out well for me because I can do laundry whenever I want. As long as he has clean underwear, we're good. He used to do dishes a lot more, but hey, that's the deal, right? And if I'm like, Adrian, I did laundry and you haven't done dishes, that man will ignore the dishes for 4 days. He hates that. But if I'm like, oh, it's kind of getting a little stinky in here. Would you mind cleaning up the dishes? Yeah, he's like, yeah, sure, fine. Even if I'm like, hey, can you do the dishes? Not even saying it's stinky. He'll fucking do them. But you're right. People don't want to be guilted into doing things. People, we so often think about reciprocity and if I give one, I gotta get one, or no, why can't we just have our needs met and ask for what we need and ask for help from our partners and our friends and the people who work with us, And
it's also to know that it doesn't need to be one-to-one in this immediate moment. It can be in a month from now, it can be in a year from now. And so we don't need to force upon the things that are happening in us to another person. And so just we don't like that to happen to ourselves, because I know with fucking ADHD, everyone listening to this will be like, if somebody asked you to vacuum while you literally were on your way to vacuum your place, you would not do it. Hands down.
My whole childhood.
You'd be fucking pissed that somebody just did that. And where if they said, hey, I'm going to clean this. Do you want to vacuum while I clean the dishes? Be like, all right, we're going to get 2 stones done and then we can hang out on the couch together. Teamwork. That you're going to like that so much better. Rather than judging each other and forcing your self-beliefs onto each other. It's never going to make either of you happy.
Yeah. And I like that it's not one-to-one, because I even think about that with our friendship. Me and Victoria buy each other shit all the time. If it's just easier, right? If I'm getting a water bottle, I'm just going to buy 2, get you 1. If we're out at dinner and it's just one check, we'll just pay, one person pays. And it's not we're keeping fucking score. It's not we're oh, I bought dinner last week, so you better buy it this week. We might mention that 2 weeks later. Oh, don't worry about it. You got 2 times ago, so it's all good, right? We might not say that, but we're not literally thinking Victoria fucking owes me because, we gotta stay even to justify our friendships and prove that we're both worthy of. No, it's not like that. And if it is like that for you, that's a sign that you and the people you're around are feeling extremely unworthy of the things you desire, and of the relationship you have.
And it's also, that's how we choose to do it. I've had friendships where they do want to be even. And I'm like, look, if that's what they need to do to stay happy in this, fine, you
totally.
pay, I'll literally half it and then just pay you back on Venmo right now. I'm not here to create an issue out of it. And so it's whatever works inside of the relationship that you're in.
Totally.
And this is what works for Ashley and I, is we don't care that much. It's one day I forgot my wallet and I was like, Ashley, I'm so fucking hungry. Can you buy me food? And she's like, okay, what do you want?
You literally.
It doesn't matter. It's I wasn't even saying like, I'll pay you back right now. Okay, I promise. And she's like, she knows I have money. It's like, and two, I can go buy her. So like, I'll go out and I'll buy her lunch the next day. It doesn't even matter.
Like if you don't pay me back,
not like,
I don't care.
When are you going to pay me back the $8 that you bought me breakfast? Like it's going to be okay. And that's just what works for us. But it's understanding that those are just how we both function easy, and we don't care that much, but we figured that out with each other. And so it's understanding what the other person might need and how to work together, but also what are you might projecting onto them that is actually not giving you what you want.
Yeah, and like where are you trying to over-explain, over-justify, overcompensate to have your needs met? And the powerful question you can ask yourself for this one is, why do I feel like I need to justify myself to get my needs met? Like, let's say you are like that friend who wants to be paid back. You know, if you're like, oh, will you pay me back, Victoria, because I bought you lunch and you never pay me back for lunch. Instead of trying to justify yourself, like, what if you're just like, oh, hey, I bought your lunch. Do you mind paying me back for that? Same thing, but we don't need to justify ourselves to get what we want. And if you think that, you've got to ask yourself why.
Yeah. And it's okay to be direct. I think we have to, like, I have learned, especially in the past week, Ashley actually really taught me this, is I try to ask questions indirectly because I feel what I want to say is too harsh or direct. And every time I do that, Ashley goes, so what are you actually trying to ask? And I'm like,
what are you actually trying to say? Because
okay,
I don't fucking know.
I'm going to say it now. And then she's like, oh, well then like, let's talk about this. And like, this might be an issue, or like, this is it. And I'm preventing the situation being solved by asking indirect questions to try and make it feel more comfortable.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, whenever you're like, do you ever feel like, and I'm like, why does that matter? What do you actually want here? Like, who fucking cares if I ever feel like that? What do you feel? What are you trying to get out of this, you know?
And so it's important to know what we're projecting, but also why we don't believe that we are worthy of whatever it is that you wanted.
Yeah, totally. Yeah, that was a good one. Okay, number 4. Ooh, this one kind of relates to like you speeding up too much. A sign that you don't believe you're important is when you get annoyed when your life gets in the way of your work or your business or your goals. And like this could even be like fitness goals, right? Like this could be any goals that you have, but like when life gets in the way of your productivity, I would say.
So this used to be a huge ass trigger for me. And even like last year at this time, Bo kept getting really sick. Like he got pink eye, he got giardia again, he got kennel cough. Like I was going to the vet all the freaking time. And I was really annoyed by this. And that I felt like as soon as I got an idea, the next day Bo would get sick and I had to take the whole day off and go to the vet. And like where we were living at the time, like I had to take a boat to the vet and then take him there. When would I get in and everything? And then
that sounds
care
silly.
Afterwards. And I had to drug Bo to go to the vet because he has some vet trauma, my little man. And it was just, I was making into this entire ordeal because now I was taken away from something that I wanted to do. And I finally had an idea and I was ready to execute it, but then other things kept getting in the way. And so it's like, was I finding an excuse to not work on it? It's not that. Instead, it was that I couldn't have the time to do the things and that I felt like everything had to be more important than me. And I needed to communicate to others to, one, help me out and maybe take Bo off my hands for a minute or whatever, or to take some time for myself and also rest because I was so tired of dealing with all of that stuff. Then I didn't have energy left to put in myself. And I didn't have the boundaries anywhere in my life to give that. Whereas fast forward a year, Bo got kennel cough a few weeks ago, or even we got sick. And I'm like, okay, we did this, but that's okay because things will end. And then tomorrow I can get back on it and it's okay. And it's knowing that like that wasn't a direct infringement on me because I was taking care of myself already. And it was just a little hiccup and I had the ability to deal with it.
Yeah. Yeah. That even makes me think of like if like a family member gets sick or someone gets in a car accident or whatever. And you're like, oh, it's so annoying. Like I had so many things planned. It's just so annoying. And like we lose our empathy for our lives and the people in our lives when we're so obsessed with working and getting things done. like to even think like you could have a family member pass and you're like, oh, that's so freaking annoying because I was going to go work on this thing today or whatever. And you get mad when life happens. And I think this happens because we lose control. And so if this thing happens in your life, now you can't work, which means now you're not working hard and you're not controlling the outcome. And you have to trust that everything you've done thus far is going to be good enough to get by in your work. And if you don't believe that and you don't believe you're worthy of having your needs met and your goals fulfilled without you busting your ass or having control, then yeah, you're going to get pissed when life gets in the way. Or even I would remember when I was burnt out, I would get so fucking mad when I got sick because I was like, oh, great, now I can't work. And all I want to do is work. And when am I going to stop being sick? And by doing that, I was just making myself more sick because I wasn't resting and I wasn't slowing down. And so I was getting so mad. And that is the issue, is like you're putting your business and making it way more important than yourself and getting mad at yourself and mad at your life when in reality you should be like, nah, I'm way more important than my business. I'm glad that I have this time to chill.
I remember last year, so you got COVID right at Christmas, right? And then you were like going up for a big launch of 9 to Freedom, which is the one that I was in. And I remember this day in January, and you literally made a video about this, where you said, I am done with being sick. I'm just deciding I'm not sick anymore, and here's how I'm going about my launch.
I'm like, I'm over this. I'm fucking done being sick. And like, that's
you were
not
trying
how it
to take
works.
control of being sick.
Yeah,
That's how
I'm
desperate
done.
you were for control.
Yeah, I'm like, I'm done. I'm canceling being sick. I have claimed this for myself. And you know what's funny is like when we got sick last month, is like that's a year later. 1 year later, the change that I've made where I was like, I literally made a post where I was like, guys, I'm not putting a deadline on when I'm going to be done being sick by. Like, my body will decide. And it's like literally 1 year ago, I was literally like, and I've decided today the sickness shall leave my body. And it's like, yeah, I was just trying to have control because I was so annoyed that life was happening. And it's funny because like you can get annoyed by good things too. Like, let's say there's a wedding or a vacation or, you know, something cool that you want to go do in the middle of the day. And you're like, oh, of course this would happen in the middle of the day when I have this big project.
Of my birthday. My grandma died and I had to go to her funeral on my birthday. I was
pretty annoying.
livid because it was annoying, but I was livid because I was losing control. And it was the first time in my life where I was like, I am not going to have my birthday depression this year. And I had been trying to figure out what my birthday depression was about for so many years because what it turned out to be is I never had control over it and people were always ruining my birthday. And I felt like I wasn't boundaries, not being able to communicate them, not feeling like I was worthy of communicating them, not feeling like I was worthy to be a bitch about it. And because look, it's my fucking birthday. I'm not even a person that's like a birthday week or a birthday this. Like, look, I'm asking for one fucking day here, people. If you can't figure it out for one day, then like I don't want you in my life. All right, look, it's not even really about me. It is about me, actually. It really is about me. Look, just let me be important for one day.
Right, because you're like, I'm not important any other day, so why the fuck am I not important on my birthday? And then you wouldn't be unimportant on your birthday, so you're like, of course this would fucking happen. Of course I'm not important on my birthday. I'm never important. And you're like so mad.
And I was trying to take extreme control over it this year of not letting anybody ruin my birthday and just trying to escape.
And Saturn
Ironic.
said, nah. Saturn, the one that was in your first house of self, literally said, no, you don't get to have control of even your fucking birthday, my dude. Sit the fuck down.
But I wasn't having that birthday depression until that moment hit where I found out my grandma died and the funeral was on my birthday. And it was because I felt like I had full control. But then the second that control, I was pissed when I lost control of it. And I was like, okay, what can I do to make this better? Because I am not willing to let this ruin my entire birthday. Like, I'm not willing this year. I will not accept. And then I was like, okay, the next day is nice. Ashley, let's go hiking. And that would make this entire situation better, especially after sitting in a car for 2 days, because I really hate sitting in cars. I don't do good on long car rides. And because I was able to have that and knew that was happening, I was able to deal with the situation and know that it wasn't about me, right? And I could be there and I could have a good time as much as you can at a funeral, because I knew I was worthy of still getting taken care of and what I wanted, and that even though I didn't get it in the most amazing way that I could have possibly wanted in a warm tropical place, I was still able to go hiking and go outside in the sunshine and do what I wanted.
Yeah, and what I think is really cool is like, you could look at what you did to go hiking, like, oh, well, you're still trying to get control. But what happened was you released control because you weren't bitter anymore. You're like, okay, I'm going to do this thing. Can't control it. I'm just going to go do it. And what you decided to do instead is you recognize that the thing that you couldn't control was going to deplete your energy. You were going to be in a car for a long time. You're going to be interacting with a lot of people. That was going to exhaust you. And so you decided to combat that. You were going to fulfill yourself with an energy-giving activity by going hiking the next day. So it's like not only did you release control, but you understood your needs so much that you figured out a way that you could still get energy and feel excited and all of those things, where in the past it might have looked a little bit different in the way that you tried to get energy by taking control and all of those things.
Well, it was a victim mentality of like, well, if I can't get it the way I originally wanted, then I don't want it at all because I shouldn't be able to get it. Like, it's too much work now. Where instead this time it was, okay, I'm giving up control about how I originally wanted my birthday to go and how I would love to have it. And instead, okay, here's a shitty situation put in my hands. What can I do about it to make it a little bit less shitty and more enjoyable? What is in my actual control? Because so much of us, we spend so much time looking and obsessing over things we don't actually have control over, instead of looking for the areas that we actually have control over. What could I do? Sunday, I could go hiking. I had control over that day because I didn't have anything else planned and I was leaving it open. I was able to fill it with something that I enjoyed and something that I could control, like not necessarily control, but put on my calendar for me.
Well, and I think what's cool about what you did is you said, and this is a perfect example for someone who wants to know what this looks like. You said, I don't have control, but I'm still worthy of a good birthday. I'm still worthy of the thing that I want. So yeah, you don't have control of what the whole weekend looks like, but you still met your needs of having a good birthday. You decided what that looked like for you. And, we get so mad about life taking over and losing control and all of those things. But what are the ways that you need to tell yourself, you the listener right now, that you don't have control, but you're still worthy of whatever? I don't have control of being sick, but I'm still worthy of resting and trusting that when I get unsick or I recover, my business is going to be just fine. I don't have control over the fact that Adrian is going to be at law school until 10 o'clock tonight, but I'm still worthy of having a delicious ass dinner, a nurturing ass evening, a lovely ass bath if I want, and a good conversation when he gets home. I'm still worthy of those things. I'm not going to kick and scream because I don't have control, and I'm not going to fight to make myself have control so I can work better or be better. I'm not going to do that.
And that part is really about giving up control of the things that we have no control over, but we try to play victim to.
Yeah.
Because it can feel easier in that moment than finding the things and having the second thought awareness of, okay, what can I do instead?
It is so much easier to just be annoyed that life is pissing you off. And it's like, because if you think about your business, right? Like, we make business feel beautiful. Oh, if I work on my business, I'm going to have so much money. I'm never going to worry about anything. I'm going to stack my funds. I'm going to have all these teams, all these people paying attention to me. And we're in this dream world when we work on our business, because it's this huge goal for a lot of us. And a lot of us, even when we're fulfilled by our businesses, it's like, oh, it's beautiful over here. And you're in this daydream, and then life happens. You're like, oh, what the fuck? Did you just pop my bubble? Get the fuck out of here. I'm living in my daydream. My business is my daydream. I gotta work on this business to fulfill the daydream. And you're making me go walk the dog. You're making me go take Adrian lunch because he forgot it. Get the fuck out of here. I'm not doing that, right? You're gonna ruin my daydream. And it's like, no. How can you recognize that you're not always gonna live in the daydream? And real life can happen, but you can make the best out of real life. And even if you don't have control, like, good things still happen for you.
Exactly. That's a good note to lead it on.
All right, number 5. Okay, our very last reason of a sign that you don't believe that you are important is getting really pissed off when people overstep your boundaries. Notice how
Which
these
is
are
kind
all
of like
triggered.
what we were just talking about, but
in a different way. Well, okay, let's talk about the post that made us kind of add this to the list. I'll let you lead.
Okay, so the trend that is going around right now is the, nah, you're good, you just caught me off guard when blah, 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 blah. And somebody said, and she's like, I think she was like a social media marketer or something like that, and she said, when a client emails you and asks you to do more work than originally in the scope and emails you outside of your
hours.
normal working hours. And
then they're like, red flag.
And it was like, red flag, drop that client immediately.
Yeah.
Like, no. And one, that's a red flag that you're finding it.
You're the red flag. Like, she's the red flag.
It's you're projecting your issues on that client. And also, two, that's kind of unprofessional to do, because now I would never work with you if I was, one, especially that client, but also two,
business tips: don't shit on your clients.
Because
don't shit on potential clients.
It's one thing to like put boundaries, but it's one thing to like constantly say them and everything, because you're projecting that you don't believe in the boundaries, so you feel like you have to scream them for the rooftop.
Right, because let me tell you something.
Nobody will listen to you.
Yeah, as someone who has very strong boundaries with clients, and like, I do not care if someone sends me an email at 9 p.m. I have always told I don't reply to Voxer like it's a voice memo app, or we can say texting. If my client texts me on the weekend, I'm not going to answer. And they're always, a lot of my clients are like, I'm so sorry for texting you on the weekend. I'm like, I don't give a fuck, because I'm not looking at it. My app is turned off. I'm not replying. I don't give a shit when you message me. Just know I'm not going to reply until 10 a.m. on Monday. That's on you. I don't give a fuck. And if for her to be like, oh my God, they're messaging me off hours, I'm like, okay, that's a you problem, because subconsciously you're like, great, now I have to reply, because if I don't reply, they're going to think I'm a bad, social media manager, and they're not going to want to work with me. And you're just spiraling through your own doubt of why you're not good enough, instead of just saying, hey, I have this boundary. You can do what you want, but I'm still going to hold the boundary, And it's also, why are you still looking at your email at that time if you say you're not doing it? Because for me, with Voxer or even emails from a client, like, the thing about ADHD with old clients that I've had is, I know you're going to get ideas at like certain times a day of things that you might want to work on or talk about next week. And I understand that you might forget that. And so if there's like a moment at 2 a.m., send it, guys. Like, I was fine with that. My notifications are off.
Guess what? I'm not going to reply to you till the next morning. And you're going to know that. And I'm going to tell them that. But they can message me whenever, because you have that ability. I want you to be able to get the best out of it. Just don't expect me in these off hours. And I don't even look at the messages at a night or anything. It's rare that I do or whatever, because your phone fucks up sometimes. And then I'm just like, okay, I guess I'll just do this now because it's easy. But I made that choice.
Right.
I made that choice.
And then you're not going to be bitter about it.
I'm mad about it.
You're not going to go post on social media. Yeah. Yeah. And the other thing was like, people asking for more work, right? Like, you could even equate this to brands. Like, you make a brand deal and they're like, oh, could you do this again? Could you make another edit? Could you add this? Could you do more? If you're getting mad when people ask for more, again, that's a you issue. We don't need to shame people for asking to have more needs met. Let's have a conversation. If you have a firm boundary and you're not going to do more work, if a client asks me, Ashley, would you review this document I created? And that's not in their contract, I'm going to say, hey, that's not something I do within the scope of this. And that could be the end of the conversation. Or I could say, hey, that's not something I usually do, but if you're willing to pay an extra fee for this one-time review of this thing, I could do that for you. And I can hold those boundaries for myself instead of getting bitter and mad that this person is a bad client. And it's just like, why do we have this avoidance to having conversations and setting our boundaries and living in them, other than the fact that we don't think we're worthy of living in them and upholding them for ourselves? We think we have to go back to what we just talked about, justify and over-explain ourselves.
And so what are we doing that's holding ourselves back? What are we doing that's preventing us from that? What is, with that idea of like, okay, if it's us that's causing it, what do we need to release inside of ourselves that it's okay to have those things? Because especially in the world of business, I actually found it really helpful, because it's not personal, it's business. Especially if it's a business to business, it's like, look, we're just trying to do business here. Like, it's not about me, but people like to make it about themselves. And so it's, let's say somebody is asking for more. It's just like, they're just asking. Think of it as that. Like, don't let this possible idea projection they might be having upon yourself. That is not your thing to take in. Just like if somebody's saying like, oh, I'm fine, but like they're not fine. And like, we kind of know
take
that.
It for what it is.
Unless they tell you and communicate what's their issue. It is not our job to take on, and it's not our job to take that emotional labor with us.
Nope.
We might perceive it just because of trauma, and it's like, oh, I know that's going wrong, but guess what? That's not our job to deal with. And until you're ready to communicate, that's not my fault. And so if somebody asks for that and be like, okay, yeah, that's actually not in our thing. But if you want to do this, then we'll do it that way. They have the decision to say yes or no. And if they say no, it's still not about you.
Right. And they like, unless they're literally like, I'm so fucking pissed at you, you're a disgusting human being, like, which would probably never happen, then don't take it on. Why would that happen?
It's still not about you.
Yeah. Then you say, okay, bye. I guess we're not going to work out. I will say, though, one of the things that's always annoyed me about business, and this is going to take us a little off topic and away from the point, but it kind of matters, is whenever I would set boundaries with clients and I'd be like, sorry, I can't do that. And they're like, yes, you fucking can. You're the CEO of the company. And I'm like, bye. Like, that's when a relationship ends with a client. It's like literally people have told that to me before. They're like, you can do whatever you want. You own the company. And I'm like, I see you, universe. You're just trying to make sure I'm real strong in my boundaries, because it would be so easy for me to be like, if I didn't believe in myself, to be like, oh, you're right. I guess I can. Okay, I will. Like, no, fuck that. I'm like, yeah, I am the CEO of the company. I'm still not doing that shit. Next. Like, people are wild, but that doesn't mean you have to give up on your boundaries.
So that's when Kate comes into play. Kate is my assistant. Kate, if you get an email from Kate, that means I don't want to deal with you and I want to be bitchier than
Kate
I
said,
believe
sorry,
I can be myself.
Sorry, got some red tape here.
Kate will be the bitch, all right? Sometimes it's not even me writing the bitch email because I feel like I'll just be too heated in it. And so I'll have somebody else write the boundary for me because I don't feel like I can. One, that is because I don't feel like I can express my boundary enough in myself, possibly, which is. It's two, also just kind of like an extra assurance for myself. And it's good to always have, I will say, in business, as create a fake assistant, guys. Do it. It's so important. It's so nice. Mine's Kate. She's great.
So funny. And, there's that. But yeah, no.
Like, that's not, the thing about that is that's not somebody I want to do business. So the second you react like that, because that is a reaction, is that is not something that I want to deal with. And so, okay, that's good. We'll let you go.
Yeah, we'll let you go. You can talk to Kate to do your offboarding. But again, like that, just because someone acts nasty like that doesn't mean you have to give up on your boundaries and fall or get pissed at them. Like, I'm not going to be like, yes, I'm pissed because that's like a rude ass thing to say to somebody to try to manipulate your way to getting what you want. But like, I'm like, good, like, goodbye.
Remember how we said that manipulation is not actually going to get you what you want? Remember, like, if you guilt somebody into vacuuming, or if you guilt Adrian to do the dishes, he ain't going to do it. He's going to take even longer.
Yeah, you're going to
know that
to get your
way.
We
do not need to take upon the manipulation.
Yeah. And, this goes outside of business too. If we like bring me and Adrian back into it, is, people crossing your boundaries happens all throughout life. It's just a thing. And I remember when Adrian first started working his job in Boston, he works with a lot of lawyers. And so they go out and they do like happy hours together to get to know their clients. And I remember when he first started doing that, I would get so pissed because it would be like 9 o'clock and he would be like, I'm on my way home. And then it'd be like 9:30. He'd be like, nope, I'm not leaving yet. And then 10 and then 11. And like, he wouldn't respond. And I would get mad because, I was trying to figure out, am I going to be the one taking Max out? Am I our dog? Am I going to be needing to cook him dinner? What do I need to do? And it felt like he was impacting my schedule. And if I got down to the root of it, I was getting mad about this thing. But if we do the why was I getting mad? It was because I didn't think I was important enough for him to give me updates. And, I had to first do work before I like went and screamed at him for being late or yada, 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 to like explore, like, why did I feel like I was not important? What did I need to do to communicate that I am important? And it was literally as simple as being like, hey, when you go out, it impacts my schedule because I have to take care of Max and I like to make sure that you have dinner. I just need you to tell me when you're going to be home and how that impacts my schedule, because that makes me feel important to know that, like, yada, yada. And, at first when I told Adrian I was mad about him being late, he thought it was about like, oh, okay, I won't go out for drinks with my coworkers anymore. And I'm like, no, it's not about that. I actually don't give a shit when you come home. You can come home at 2 a.m. As long as I know how my schedule is being impacted and I know that's my boundary. Just tell me what my schedule is going to look like and how you being gone impacts me, and then you can be gone. But if I didn't get to the root of why I was mad was because I didn't think I was important enough for him to communicate with me, then that could be me screaming at him, me yelling at him thinking he could never go out with his friends again or his clients again. And it's like, it's not really about that. It's about something else. And that's why it's important to understand the ways that you don't feel important, because then you can understand how to ask for what you need in any given situation.
And, something that made me think of is, you know how people say, oh, these are really hard conversations to have? Is I actually think the hard conversation is when you have the second thought and have the conversation with yourself of how you're going to react differently and understand. That's the hardest part, is like, okay, then you understand it and you're like, okay, so it's not about me. It is about me. It's all about me. It's all my fault.
It's all about me. It's not about the drinks. It's not about him being out late. It's not about the
clients.
Not
about that. It's about all of this. Okay, I need to communicate that. And sometimes that conversation can be hard because you have to keep up with the boundary that you're trying to set. And so in real time, as you've just learned to set it. And so that can be challenging. But I think the hardest part is literally just having that conversation, that second thought with yourself of like, I know this is not what it's about. I have to figure out what's going on inside of me. And now I have to figure out how to act in accordance to the new way I want to be.
Right. And if we think about, we've been talking about old identities and acting in our new identities, old Ashley in other relationships would just be like, yeah, I'm fucking pissed that you're staying out late and I'm not invited and I don't get to go and I'm not included and you don't tell me anything. And I could just rant about that because that's like a really easy thing to yell about with someone. And I did used to yell at people about that. But it's like, you're right. Okay, that's not my identity. I'm not the girl who gets left out. I'm not the girl who's not important. I'm not the girl who doesn't get updates on what her partner is doing. I'm the girl with an amazing ass life. And so I have to say, okay, if that's it, then what is this old projection? The old projection is I'm not important enough to get updates from my partner. Okay, well, let me just ask for updates from my partner. But you're right, that's hard to figure out in the moment. And so sometimes I've noticed in my relationship, if Adrian does things that trigger me or make me mad, my first reaction is never to yell at him. It's always like we've been talking about in this episode, look for the second thought. So if I'm getting mad first, I really do explore, like, why is this making me mad? How is this making me feel? You know, remember, if we've talked about this in other episodes, Adrian was in law school and he was doing finals. And, you know, I already said he's out until 10 p.m. He was studying until 2 a.m. And I felt really lonely and I didn't feel like a priority. And it would be really easy for me to be pissed and be like, Adrian, you never prioritize me. You're always caring about everything else. All you care about is yourself and your law school and your video games. And you never put me first. But it actually wasn't about that at all. I felt like I wasn't a priority, and I realized I also wasn't prioritizing myself. You know, in that episode, I talked about how I wasn't buying myself groceries when I needed them. I wasn't doing these things for myself. And I had to first understand that to then communicate to Adrian. And it was so logical when we talked, when I got to that point, because I really just said, hey, you know, you've been working a lot and I know finals are ending soon. Like, when finals are over, I would really love a date night. Like, if we can go on a date, that would be so, so exciting. He was like, yeah, thanks for communicating that with me. I'm glad that you didn't like get to a point where you felt like you had to blow up. This was really good. This was good. I would love to take you on a date. And it's just like, conversations are so much logical when you can figure out why you're not feeling an important or like a priority, and then you can communicate your needs. But until you get to that point, you're just kind of writhing in this like belief that you don't feel important, but you don't understand that that's the belief.
And it's okay to be that angry at first. Like, we think it's not okay. And it's like, I shouldn't be like this. Like, I'm working on this stuff. Why am I still angry at myself? It's okay to be like angry in those moments. It's like, that's a natural first reaction. It's the point that we want to get to as having that not be how we react. And to
feel
others, right? React that inside yourself. Like, feel all of your feelings, but then we're like, okay, these feelings happened. What triggered these feelings? Why did I not feel like I was worthy? Why did I not feel like I was having my needs met? And how can I communicate that, what the needs that I need, right? And so I always say, like, when we're learning how to communicate, the communication equation that I was taught, which is say what you want and what you need. That's it. That is how you communicate. And so figure out what you want and what you need. What is the issue in the situation? And then say that. And then you can have and start a conversation, an honest conversation about how you can compromise and work together to get whatever both of you guys need and want out of it.
That's so good. Yeah, because if you think about the example I gave with Adrian going out with his coworkers, it took a little bit of digging for me to realize, hey, what I want to know is how your schedule is going to impact me. So I need you to communicate to me when you're getting home so I can make decisions for myself if I know I'm going to be doing things alone. And yeah, that is it. Like, it works, right? Like, I got what I wanted, but I couldn't have got there if I didn't feel the feelings of, I'm so mad about this right now. I'm so pissed. And then be like, why am I pissed? And don't skip the pissed part. As somebody who has gone almost her whole life with never expressing anger, you have to feel the emotions that you're having, because if you don't, they will bottle up. Even if you explore them, even if you can logically rationalize why you were angry, you just gotta feel the fucking feeling, or else it will bottle up and express itself in a million other ways that make no sense.
Yeah, like it has to come out in some way. And so it might just come out in an entirely different way that you don't want it to. So put it in a safe place.
I will never forget the day I was on a coaching call with one of my mentors, and she was like, Ashley, you're really fucking angry and you've never expressed that anger. And I was like, I think you are right, ma'am. How do I get out this anger that you speak of? And like literally, this is like, feels embarrassing, but it wasn't. And she was like, I need you to either go to a rage room or get a pillow and just start punching the shit out of it. And I did. I had a pillow one night and I just beat the shit out of my pillow, and I was crying about everything I'd been angry about my whole entire life, and it felt so good. And then now I don't have to have a big burst of anger 25 years later. I can just have like little bouts of anger and then like scream or yell or cry or whatever the fuck I want to do, and I don't need to beat the shit out of a pillow, but you know, feel the anger.
I just have a lot of anger, but I'm supposed to, apparently. So
and it's fine.
There's no anger. There's no anger is terrifying from a manifestor, apparently. Which Ashley was scared of my anger.
Yeah, you know, go back to the episodes where I talk about how Victoria knows she's not in alignment when she's been scrolling on TikTok too long, and she starts screaming at people who cannot hear her on her phone. And, you know, we're just silently scrolling in Mexico on the little TikToks, and she's like, are you fucking kidding me? This person is the dumbest person I've ever seen in my entire life. And I'm like, holy shit, dude, are you good? Like, are you okay?
For answer, I was not okay then. I am okay now, though. I don't yell at my phone anymore.
I'm so proud of you.
Progress.
Anyways, so, you know, those are the 5 signs that you probably are subconsciously not thinking that you're very important. And I guess we only gave a few tips on what you can do, but I think the real thing to understand is if you're living in a world and you're acting this way where your subconscious belief is you're not important and you're not worthy and you're jealous and you're frustrated and you're angry, then what you truly need is an identity shift. And that first starts with changing your habits, changing your mindset, and then trying to live out and act out these new beliefs that you want to have. But it takes a lot of deconstructing. And that's something that I've been thinking a lot with what we've done over the past 6 months and what we're going to do inside of the Living Adventures Collective is we're creating that space for people to dismantle all of those beliefs.
You know, I'll say this is I was listening to a Dharma talk this morning, and Brother Phaphu gave some beautiful little nuggets where he said, with physical pain, the first thing we have to do is allow ourselves to feel the pain. The next is to accept that the pain exists. And so think about this with feelings and everything is the first is we have to say that these feelings exist and that you're mad. And the next is that you have to feel it. And then it's to take that second thought and to shift your identity around it, figure out the issues and figure out what is the new way we want to react and give ourselves care, right? So it's like, let's say you break your leg, which is kind of what he did. And so you first had to accept that pain existed, allow the pain to exist and feel the pain. And then he had to shift his care in order to feel less pain and honor his suffering. He had to honor that he was in pain. He had to accept that suffering was apparent in his life. And until you accept that suffering, you cannot change. We have to be aware and we have to accept the suffering that we are in. And we cannot play victim to the suffering that we are in. But we do that within our own mind, but not within our own body.
True. Yeah, that makes sense because if you think about, like, to make any change in your life, first you need to be aware. Hopefully we made you aware today of all the ways that you are not feeling important and not feeling worthy. And then you have to accept that you have those feelings. This is so interesting because yesterday I was doing one of the to be magnetic DIs. I was doing the meditation and I realized like I didn't feel good enough or interesting enough for an opportunity that I got. And I was like, why do I feel that way? And so that was the acknowledgement, but then I had to feel why I felt that way. And I was literally like sobbing because I was remembering the time in my life when I realized it was not likable or smart to know how good you are or important you are or confident you are. And I felt that pain of like, wow, that really hurt to be told that or to feel that way. And then from there you can, you know, release and shift. But you're right, you have to acknowledge it and you have to feel it, and then you can move through it and you can move with the feeling. And that is what this is all about. Like today was you learning the ways you don't feel important. Now you can sit with that and feel the feelings and feel mad or frustrated or angry. But then after that, you get the choice of what happens next. And that's where your power lies.
And so we did give wisdom of how to move forward. That's how to move forward. That's the only path. The second path is one, not doing anything, and that's fine. You don't have to do everything all the same time, right? Like, we gave 5 different kind of ways it shows up, and there's even more I can probably say that I'm just not thinking of right now and that we didn't think of, but these are just 5 ways that we've been feeling recently or seeing. And so it can show up and you don't have to deal with it all right now. We didn't deal with all of this. This is all stuff we felt in the past year and how we've been shifting. And so it's not about doing everything today, but it's taking one small step forward and building that awareness to yourself, that acceptance of what's happening and how you want to move forward. And you don't have to know the full path forward, but you can say, well, I'm going to act differently and see how that works. Maybe it works, maybe it doesn't, but it's one step forward and you're going to learn to do better next time and do different next time. Not even do better, do different.
Do different. Yeah, do different. We're just going to choose different every day until we get to the place where we feel like we're really confident in the identity that we've created for ourselves. Just like in the examples that Victoria and I gave, where our first thought is part of our old identity, where we want to react and we want to do things. And instead of doing that, we're like, what if I did something different today? And would that be more in line with the kind of person I want to be tomorrow? And if so, I'm going to do that different activity or that different reaction or that different method of communication.
You know, and I say it takes 6 months to change your identity. It does take 6 months to really start feeling that identity shift, but that doesn't mean you're done. It means there's still more work to get done because for 20 plus years of my life, I lived in that identity and breathed it. And so it's going to take more than 6 months to crush. I don't know how long.
We'll let you know.
It might be there my whole life.
Well, the other thing I think about is in human design, how they say like it takes 7 years to start fully living in your design. The reason they say that is because it takes 7 years for you to like fully replace the cells in your body with all brand new cells. So it's like if we think on a cellular level that our cells are going to be living in this new identity, it might take us 7 years for like our full default to be I am worthy, I am confident, I am safe, everything works out for me. It might take time and that's okay. But you have to make that first step to living in that identity for that shift to come.
Catch me in 6 years. How about that?
Catch me in 2030 when I am 7 years older. I'm not even going to do the math on what that looks like, but catch me and Victoria living in a cul-de-sac that we've built for us and all our friends.
Catch me. Yeah. Man.
All right. Well, I haven't done this ending part in a while. Make sure, please leave us a review on the podcast, like the podcast, subscribe to the podcast, follow the podcast. You can follow it on Spotify now, which is interesting. And I think we almost have 200 followers. That's pretty sick. So follow us there. You guys, here's my one request. If you do anything, you got to follow us on Instagram. We have been up-leveling our Instagram game. The memes, if you like memes, follow us on Instagram. That's all I got to say. Fuck the clips. If you like memes, I mean, the clips are getting really good too. But if you like memes, follow the IG, you know?
And the audio's getting better. And so
you're welcome. You're fucking welcome.
Things are getting good. So yeah.
Yeah, that's it for us. We'll see you on the next one. Bye.
Yeah. Bye.